Why you can't ignore the thriving to surviving continuum anymore. Hey, my dear, I am leadership development coach Kathy Archer, and thanks for joining me on the live call or following along on the replay. Either way, I am glad you're here because I know most of us are running around chasing fires, solving everybody else's problems, and never getting to the stuff that really matters to us. I give you both the inner and outer tools to turn that around so you can move from surviving to thriving in leadership and in life. I am Kathy Archer and author of best-selling book, Mastering Confidence. And today, I want to talk about that continuum that I've been nagging you about for the last couple of weeks. The surviving to thriving continuum. Now, just like all of my Facebook Live sessions, there's guides to go with this, and I just stuck with the same two guides that I gave you the last 2 weeks. And there's a whole blog post about all of this. If you go to silverrivercoaching.com/blog/thrive, you will find all of it. And I'll put that link in after we're done here today. But I want you to know that there's a couple guides that you can use today to help you kind of move through this continuum. Now, here's the thing. Why you can't ignore this anymore? If you continue to ignore this, if you continue to not look at where you're at on this continuum of surviving to thriving, you, my dear, are going to stay stuck. Let's look at this for a minute. We've been talking about the continuum. The surviving continuum is where you're barely hanging on. You're afraid you're going to drop the ball. You are, just kind of going through the motions, and anything could set you off. You might already be falling apart, struggling with health issues, dealing with some drama in your workplace, some conflicts that are not going so pretty. That's some of the stuff that happens in that survival mode. In survival mode, we are exhausted, we're drained, and like I said, anything can sort of be that straw that's going to break the camel's back and send you over the deep end. The thriving end of the continuum is where you're alive and energized and find that you're engaged in your work and you're feeling like you're doing meaningful stuff. And even though it's challenging, it's that you're challenged in a good way and that the work you're doing energizes you and you feel good about it. Many of us are stuck in the middle, that kind of tolerating place, that kind of place where we're settling and we're just kind of going through the motions. You get up every day and you do your job and you come home and you're tired and you kind of, chill out on Facebook and watch some Netflix and zone out, and you go back the next day and you do it all over again. That's the continuum. If you continue to ignore assessing where you're at on that continuum, then you are going to find that things only get worse for you. What happens for many of us is we dismiss kind of where we're at. It was interesting. I was at a talk last night from a naturopath that I'm seeing, and she was talking about how, 10 or 20 years ago, kids had a lunch break that was an hour long. And on that hour long, they, probably walked home and had a healthy lunch compared to what we're putting in our kids' lunches today. No judgment. I'm just saying we're all doing it. But that kids are getting maybe 6 to 8 minutes to eat their lunch right now because they are, rushed along to fit everything into their day. They are pushed out the door to go for recess. Teachers got to do their thing. That's what it's like for us. 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, things used to be different. And we are so used to this pace of life. We are so used to this living on the edge, dealing with the stress. Our shoulders, when we go on holidays, our shoulders are loose. And after the second or third day at the beach or at the lake, we start to settle down. But on your average workday, our shoulders are like this. Our bodies are strung out really tight. Go for a massage, you come down again, maybe a little bit. But that's the whole point. We get used to this place. And that old story about the boiling frog, it's not true, but it's a good metaphor to think about. What they used to say was if you put a pot of water on to boil and you bring it to boil and you throw the frog in, he's going to jump out. He's going to be like, wait, this is too hot. I'm out of here. But if you put that frog in when the water's cold and then start to heat it up, that frog will stay in there and die. And that's literally what many of us are doing in our organizations. We don't notice where we're at. And so if you continue to ignore this continuum, if you don't stop to look at where you're at in that surviving, coping, complying, settling to thriving continuum, things are going to get worse. And what's going to happen is you are going to continue to see things fall apart in your organization around the culture, the work you're doing. You're going to become less productive. You're going to become more overwhelmed. The burnout rate is phenomenal for many of us women. And then it leans into our personal lives, and we start to have problems with our parenting, and our marriage starts to fall apart, and our health deteriorates, and we gain weight. That's what happens when you stop and when you don't address this. Let me flip pages so I know where I'm going. I want to make sure I'm on track here. So what I want to say is, don't be one of those ones that loses themselves in this. I hear women say this all the time. I don't even know who I am anymore. I've lost myself in this crazy busyness of trying to do my job and trying to sort of stay sane in my personal life. I don't know who I am anymore. And that's because you haven't slowed down enough to see who you are and connect with who you are. Don't be one of the ones who finds that your health is deteriorating. I was, looking last night. I'll go back to, I was in this session on women's hormones with my naturopath. She was doing a lecture, and she was talking about, all of the health issues. And I was looking back to when I was in leadership, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how bad it was back then. Back troubles and digestive troubles and marriage troubles, and put on a significant amount of weight, and I was depressed. And I add all that up, and I'm like, wow, there was a lot of stuff happening that I didn't kind of see that picture. And that's what goes on. So don't be one of those ones who's going to do that. Instead, what I want you to do is and if you go back to the blog post, the video I did last week, the guide sheet that I did last week, this is what I talked about. I want you to be one of those ones that creates this thriving target. So imagine what it's like if you were to turn things around and start to move towards that thriving end of things. What would be different for you? Maybe you'd be more productive. Maybe you'd have more what's called white space in your calendar, where there's empty things of nothing to do, where you get to do that meaningful work, where you get to read that book on leadership, or on, whatever the topic of the work that you're doing is, or you have white space in your evening where you're not running here and there and everywhere. And maybe the image you create when you're in thriving mode is that you actually have energy left at the end of the day. I just sent an email out today to my newsletter list, if you're on it, and there's a little mini program in there called Leaving the Office with Energy. So if that's something you want, I'll put the note in the section here at the end of this today too, because that might be what part of your vision is for when you're thriving, is that you actually leave the office at the end of let me try that again. You actually leave the office at the end of the day with energy. And that might be what you feel in that thriving mode. I just realized that I forgot to share this in with my Confident Women Leaders group, so you're going to have to hold off a second while I move on over to this, my phone here. Give me a second. If you are not in my Confident Women Leaders group, Confident Women Leaders is a group of women. Let me get this. A group of women who are connecting with each other to both grow their leadership, their confidence, and find balance in life. And so, 2 seconds, share, write post, share to a page. Give me a second. This takes a while. I don't want to share it on a page. I want to share it in a group. I want to share it with Confident Women Leaders. Confident Women Leaders community, and share. Facebook just changed. Just as I'm doing that, I'm like, wait a minute, things look different here. So hopefully I shared it in the right space. And before I continue, I'm going to shut the internet off my phone so I'm not stealing internet. Sorry for the delay. There we go. All right, I'm back. So when you're creating this thriving target, that's what I called it last time. We are teleological beings. We need to have a target to aim at. We are better able to reach our goals when we have a target. And so that's this thriving target. Where do you want to be? What does that look like? And it's different for everyone. That's the important thing. Some people want quiet evenings like me to paint rocks. Other people want time to take their kids to their dance practice. Other people want to be able to be involved in some of their volunteer organizations. What does it look like for you when you come home at the end of the day and you have some energy left? What does it look like when you're thriving at your office? I know for many of the women that I'm working with, it means that they're productive, that they have energy, and that they're also able to tackle those things that are challenging in a day, the conversations that are tough, that, when you're sitting at a staff meeting and you're discussing one of those icky kind of conversations, that you're able to move through it, that you don't get stuck, that you don't get bogged down. That takes a level of energy, and that is a different kind of mindset. That might be what your vision of is thriving. So here's the thing. You, my dear, are at a crossroads. You need to make a decision. Am I going to wake up and become more aware of what's happening for me in my leadership and my life? Or am I going to continue going down this path? It's time for you to choose. If you want to be that best self, be your most healthy self, both physically and mentally, be your strongest self in your leadership, you need to make the choice to step back, look at where you are, decide where it is you want to be, create that target, and then start intentionally taking the steps to get there. That's what you need to do. And for many of us, we're afraid to kind of do that. Here's the thing that I want to tell you. 3 things that you need to remember. Nothing will change, my dear, until you change. Absolutely nothing. Too many of us are waiting for somebody else, waiting for something to change. It's busy time, September. So once September's over, I hate to disappoint you, but October's going to hit. And then we have Thanksgiving in Canada anyhow. And there's probably some meetings that are going to take up your time. It's not going to change. Many of us are waiting for somebody else to change. Well, if that person would just leave. In my book, Mastering Confidence, I told you the story about these one staff in one situation, 2 staff in another situation, my boss, everybody else that I wanted to change, and that would just solve all my problems. It doesn't. You have to be the one to change. So remember, if you don't change, nothing changes. The second thing that I want you to remember is you've probably minimized where you're at. You've probably lost perspective on how bad it really is. And that's why you need to take a step back and gain that perspective. Looking at this continuum, doing these exercises that I give you, silverrivercoaching.com/guides will get you those last 2 guide sheets that walk you through, where do I land on this continuum, and then help you create that thriving target so you can have that vision to go forward. And that's the third thing I want you to remember. So remember, nothing will change unless you do. You've probably minimized it, and the thing that's going to get you to move forward is a target, is a vision, is a plan, is that thing that's going to inspire you and motivate you forward. If you've been stuck far too long, sitting here looking at why I'm here and what's wrong with this, and I hate this person, and I hate this job, and I'm tired of this, and this is awful, isn't going to change anything. It's going to keep sucking you into that cesspool of negativity and frustration and irritation. If you want to get your butt out of there, my dear, you need to create a vision, a plan, a dream, a goal, a target. What is it that you want? What will be different when you get there? I was thinking about this as I was looking at some questions this morning. I think what many of us say is, why does my job suck? Or why is everything going wrong here? And if you change that question and you flip it to, why is it important for me to find a new place? Why do I need to shift where I'm at in my leadership and where I'm in my life? If you look at the question, why is my kid such a brat? Maybe you want to switch it to, why is it important for me to be the best parent I can be to help my child get through this? Why is this staff member doing nothing right? Why am I spending so much time and energy on this particular person? Shift it to, why is it important to use this opportunity for me to grow my leadership? To hear the shift, that's kind of what you're doing in this vision. You're creating this vision of, I want to be a strong leader with a balanced life, with energy at the end of my day. How do I need to get there? That's going to create that vision. And then your mind and your subconscious, once you create that vision, your subconscious mind starts helping you figure out the steps. You don't need to know all the steps. If you're in my Blueprint for Change program, that program helps you identify the steps over time. And it helps you to look at, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And what do I need to do to get there? What's interesting about that is many women go, wow, there's so many insights here. And where I want to be is either exactly where I am, but I want to enjoy it more. You know what? It's time for me to change jobs. Maybe that's, I need to get out of this organization, but maybe it's, I actually need to move up. I'm bored here. I need to grow and develop more. So many women, when they step back and do that in Blueprint for Change, they go, where am I now? Living in this kind of drab, frustrating situation. Where do I want to be? Energized, feeling like I'm doing fulfilling work, feeling like I'm making a difference. How do I get there? I change jobs. I become more engaged in the job I am. I go back to school and take some training. I move. Whatever it is, it's that shift you need to do. What's opened up now is my other program called Women with Grit. Women with Grit is a longer program than Blueprint for Change. And Blueprint for Change kind of looks at, where am I now and where do I want to be? Women with Grit is a 6-month program, and it looks at, who am I now and who do I want to be? It's a subtle but much deeper shift where you start to look at, how do I show up? What's the impact I have? What's the type of person I want to be? And what do I want to do with all of that? It reconnects you to your purpose in your work, to the vision you want to create in yourself and in your organization, and the lasting impact you want to have on your community. And how do you cultivate all that? So I'll put the link for that in the notes as well. If you're interested in that, potentially join one of the webinars that I'm doing. And again, I'll put the links. There'll be a whole bunch of links in the side here. I'll put the links for that in the side. I've got 3 webinars coming up, 1 tomorrow, 2 next week, where I'm going to walk you through some stuff around bringing your heart back into your leadership and how to do that and maintain some balance. I think as many women, we've kind of, again, lost that sense of ourselves, and we've lost that ability to, we're afraid to feel emotions for starters, but we're afraid to be ourselves. And I want you to bring your heart back into leadership. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about the Women with Grit program. So if you're interested in either of those, make sure you click the link when we're done here. If this has been helpful for you, my dear, please share. Share with other women, because we should not have to do this alone. You shouldn't feel like you're the only one struggling in your leadership. You shouldn't feel like you're the only one that you can't figure out how to balance leadership in life. There is a way. And when we do this together, we support each other. So remember, nothing will change unless you do. You've probably minimized where you're at, and it's that powerful vision that's going to pull you forward. Create that vision. Do the work to make the changes. And if you need help, I'm here for you. I'll put all the links in. Click on them, explore them, figure out what fits best for you, what you need to do. Make sure, though, you pop on over, get that Surviving to Thriving Continuum, assess where you're at, create your thriving target, and then figure out where you need help to get there. Because I'm here for you, the women and the Women with Grit. The Women with Grit program, maybe that's what you want to do as well. In the Confident Women Leaders Facebook group are also sort of figuring their way out, so come join that group. And yeah, you might find that Women with Grit is where you want to land. All the links will be in the notes. Join me next week, and we will continue this path of me helping you to figure out how to move from both surviving to thriving in both leadership and life. Thanks, my dear. Have an awesome day.